Welcome to the SafetyWorks Training Institute's presentation of an introduction to emergency action plans. Our objective today is to outline why it is important for employers to have an emergency action plan and the role you may play in protecting employees in the workplace. On March 25, 1911, a fire spread through the cramped Triangle Shirtwaist Factory on the 8th, 9th, and 10th floors of the Ash Building in Lower Manhattan. Workers in the factory had little time or opportunity to escape. 146 workers died from fire or smoke inhalation, or falling or jumping to their deaths. Terrified employees crowded onto the single exterior fire escape, a flimsy and poorly anchored iron structure that may have been broken before the fire. It soon twisted and collapsed from the heat and overload, spilling about 20 victims nearly 100 feet to their deaths onto the concrete pavement below. Francis Perkins, who would become the Secretary of Labor under Franklin D. Roosevelt, witnessed the horror from Washington Park, recalling later that what she saw convinced her that something must be done. We've got to turn this into some kind of victory, some kind of constructive action. Perkins and other leaders soon helped marshal new workplace safety and health standards into law in the state of New York. Regulations enacted in New York became the basis for the National Fire Protection Association's life safety codes and the foundation for the OSHA regulations we will talk about today. The Triangle Shirtwaist Factory clearly taught us two things. One, building design and housekeeping are very important to ensuring a safe and orderly evacuation. And two, planning for emergencies is critical to protect the health and safety of employees. Preventing emergencies should be every employer's highest priority, as well as preparing for one just in case one occurs. There are many regulations related to building design to ensure the safe evacuation of employees. Generally, and this is not everything, buildings must have an employee alarm system with a distinctive signal for each purpose. Buildings shall have exit routes based on the number of employees evacuating from each area. Exit routes should not have flammable or combustible materials stored in them, and exit routes and exit doors shall not be blocked. Emergency signs shall be illuminated and clearly indicate direction of travel, and all emergency routes must be adequately lit. Exit doors must never be locked or chained except for mental, penal, or correctional institutions. Exit discharges to the outside must have clear and safe passage, particularly in the winter, for any evacuation muster points. The regulations for the design of the building is to accommodate a safe and orderly evacuation in the event of an emergency. The emergency action plan should have all the elements for a safe evacuation, including but not limited to how to report emergencies, evacuation policies and procedures, emergency escape procedures and route assignments, such as floor plans, workplace maps, and safe or refuge areas. Names and contact information for additional information or explanation of duties. Procedures and job titles of those who remain to perform or shut down critical plant operations, operate fire extinguishers, or perform other emergency duties, or rescue and medical duties. Employers are expected to have an emergency action plan if any employees are expected to use a fire extinguisher in the event of a fire, if any or all employees are expected to evacuate in the event of an emergency, as well as any OSHA standard with dangerous chemicals that require a plan. This plan must be written, kept in the workplace, and available to employees. If the employer has 10 or fewer employers, the information may be communicated orally rather than a written copy of the program, and you must be trained in those aspects of the plans that pertain to you. Your employer may designate you to use a fire extinguisher in the event of an incipient stage fire. An incipient fire is a fire that has just begun and is of such size that poor visibility, smoke inhalation, and high temperatures have not reached the degree to require the use of a breathing apparatus. If you are required to fight incipient stage fires, then you will need to be trained to do so prior to using a fire extinguisher and annually thereafter. You should be trained to understand the general principles of a fire extinguisher use and the hazards of incipient stage firefighting. You may also be expected to inspect fire extinguishers as part of your job and should be trained to do so. Fire extinguishers are required to be inspected monthly. If you are required to perform the inspection, these are the minimum requirements. It needs to be located in a designated place. It should never be on the floor unless it has a cart for portability. You need to make sure the fire extinguisher is visible and that there is signage indicating where the extinguisher is located. Make sure you can easily access the fire extinguisher and things are not stored in the way. And here is the process for inspecting a fire extinguisher.
So as you can see, we've got a fire extinguisher here. It's pretty simple to look these things over. First and foremost, if I'm looking around my facility, I should be able to easily identify where the fire extinguishers are located. Usually you have some kind of fire extinguisher signage. These should be mounted. We should never find them on the floor. We should be looking to make sure that they're not dented or have been broken, say someone hit it with a forklift or whatever. So it usually is in pretty decent shape. You'll make sure your locking pin is in place and you'll make sure that it's charged. Oftentimes you'll have a tag you might write on. Your employer may have an inspection sheet that you fill out, date, but these need to be looked at every single month. There's annual inspection. There's also maintenance that occurs on different timeframes depending on the type of fire that you have and the type of fire extinguisher you're protecting yourselves from. So it's important to know that if you're inspecting fire extinguishers in your workplace, to know how to do them, because every fire extinguisher is different. They all have their own little set of procedures, so it's important for you to know.
Not only should an emergency action plan address fire hazards in the workplace, but any unforeseen situation that threatens the safety of employees, disrupts or shuts down operations, or causes physical or environmental damage. Other examples include natural disasters such as floods, hurricanes, or tornadoes. Toxic gas releases or chemical spills from your facility or nearby facilities, radiological accidents or explosions, civil disturbances, or workplace violence. Regardless of the hazard or situation, your workplace should be designed and maintained so that you and your fellow employees can exit the building safely, even under especially difficult situations. Thank you for joining us for Emergency Action Plans. For more information, please contact us at the information on your screen. Please join us also for other safety and health topics available at our SafetyWorks Training Institute or on www.safetyworks.org.